Deceived by family. How I uncovered their lies and forced them to pay. I never thought I'd be caught in a situation like this, especially not by my own family. But the more I reflect, the clearer it becomes. I've been used. And today, I'm here to share the story of how I uncovered the betrayal that I never saw coming. It all started 2 years ago when my older brother, Ben, and his wife, Sarah, moved back to town with their 2 kids, Emma and Liam. They told me they wanted to be closer to family. Something about a fresh start, a new beginning. At first, it seemed innocent enough. They were struggling with the usual life challenges. Bills, rent, the never-ending expenses that come with raising kids. I could relate. I've been doing well for myself, so when they mentioned how tight things were, I offered help. A few hundred here and there to cover school supplies or groceries. After all, family helps family, right? But then the requests started growing. First, it was the kids' school trip that they couldn't afford. Then it was the emergency car repairs. They were always just getting by, always in need of a little extra. I didn't mind helping. Hell, I was more than happy to lend a hand. But then something started to feel off. I began noticing little things, subtle at first: Ben's new phone, Sarah's hair always perfectly styled, and the strange frequency of budget-friendly vacations they were taking. One week, it was a family trip to a nearby resort. Just a little getaway to recharge, Sarah said. But I couldn't help but wonder how, on their tight budget, they were able to afford trips to these fancy places. I ignored it. After all, it was none of my business, right? But then, one evening, scrolling through Instagram, I froze. My finger hovered over the screen as I saw Sarah's latest post. A picture of her lounging by an infinity pool at some luxury resort. She was wearing sunglasses that probably cost more than my monthly rent, sipping from a coconut. The caption read, "Paradise found. Best deal ever." The thing is, just hours before, they'd asked me for money. The kids needed school supplies. Emma couldn't go on a trip unless I helped, and they were falling behind on their rent. So how could they be posting photos from a luxury vacation? My stomach dropped as the pieces started falling into place. Something wasn't right, and I knew I was about to uncover the kind of truth that no one should ever have to face. I kept helping. Felt right, you know? My brother Ben was going through a rough patch, or so he told me. The business he'd built from the ground up was struggling. Late payments, low profits, all those things you hear about from people who are really working hard. I bought into it. I helped with $2,000 for emergency car repairs. Another $1,500 to help cover their overdue mortgage payments. Every time, they thanked me profusely, promising to pay me back when they got back on their feet. And it wasn't just the bills. The kids needed new clothes for school. Emma had grown out of everything, and Liam needed a winter jacket. Sarah would send me photos of them, looking sad because they couldn't afford the basics. And then, out of nowhere, she'd throw in a "we're so lucky to have family like you" message. It was guilt wrapped up in gratitude, and I fell for it every time. But then, something inside me started to shift. It was little things at first, like Ben talking about how hard it was to make ends meet while he flashed a brand new phone at me. Or Sarah's hair, which was always freshly styled like she'd just come from an expensive salon. Even though they'd claimed they couldn't afford the kids' school supplies. I pushed the thoughts down every time. Maybe I was overthinking it. After all, they were my family. They didn't mean to make me feel uneasy, right? But then the requests kept coming. More and more money. And I kept sending it because that's what family does, right? I didn't stop to question anything. It wasn't until Lucy, my girlfriend, started pointing things out that I couldn't ignore anymore. She'd say things like, "Jack, why is Ben suddenly buying new gadgets? Didn't he say his business was struggling?" Or, "How come Sarah's always posting about shopping sprees when they can't afford groceries?" "I don't know, Lucy," I'd reply. "Maybe they're just good at managing their money better than we think. They're family." I told myself I was just being paranoid. But then came the breaking point. One night, as I sat in front of my laptop, I opened up my bank account to go through my recent transactions. I wasn't expecting anything shocking, just a routine check. But what I saw made my blood run cold. Over $30,000. $30,000 spent over the last 2 years, helping my brother and his family. Emergency car repairs, mortgage payments, school expenses, you name it. And all the while, Ben and Sarah were posting photos of luxury vacations, dining at expensive restaurants, and showing off their shopping hauls. The more I scrolled, the more I saw. It hit me like a ton of bricks. The money I'd given, every cent of it, had been used to keep up appearances. While I thought I was helping them survive, they were living a life I couldn't even dream of. I felt sick. How could I have been so blind? Before I share what happened next, the moment that completely changed everything, I want to connect with you, my amazing viewers. Where are you watching from? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. And if you've ever had to fight for something you believe in, hit that like button, because this story is just getting started. Now back to the story. You won't believe the lengths they went to. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I needed to know the truth, no more excuses, no more half-hearted explanations. I hired a private investigator. I felt sick even thinking about it. Seemed wrong, you know? Investigating my own family. But something deep down told me I had to do this. I had to know how far they'd gone. The lies, the deception. It was eating at me, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. The PI got to work, digging into Ben and Sarah's finances, following the trail of money they'd managed to hide from me for so long. The results came back, and I felt my heart drop. What I learned was more than just unsettling. It was chilling. Ben and Sarah didn't just struggle to make ends meet. They were thriving, living a life I had no idea about. They owned multiple properties, one of them a rental home in a neighboring town, bringing in steady income. Their own house, paid for in full in cash, not a loan in sight. And that business Ben had claimed was failing? Turns out it was doing better than most, 3 locations across the city, generating a small fortune. All of it hidden in plain sight. I had no idea. I was so blinded by my desire to help, by the guilt they'd placed on me, that I'd never thought to look closer. I sat in my office, the weight of the evidence staring back at me on my laptop screen. Property records, business documents, tax returns. I could hardly breathe. For a moment, I almost couldn't process it. But the truth was there, undeniable, laid out in black and white. The family I thought I knew was nothing like I imagined. I couldn't let this go. I had to confront them. I had to make them see how badly they'd hurt me, not just financially, but emotionally. The next day, I drove to their house. I didn't call first. I didn't give them any warning. I was done waiting. As I stood at their front door, I held the folder with all the documents in my hand. This was it. The moment I'd been dreading. I rang the bell, and when Sarah opened the door, her smile faded the instant she saw the folder in my hand. "Jack?" she asked, her voice tight, wary. "Need to talk to you," I said, stepping past her into the house. "Ben, get out here." Ben appeared a few moments later, his usual grin quickly fading as he saw the look on my face. I didn't waste time. I laid the documents out on their kitchen table, one by one, property records, bank statements, the proof of their business dealings. "What is this, Jack?" Ben asked, trying to play it cool. "You're making a big deal out of nothing." "No, Ben," I said, my voice sharp. "This is a big deal. How much of this did you think I wouldn't find out?" I pointed at the property documents. "You told me you couldn't afford your mortgage. You asked me for money to help you stay afloat. But you've been sitting on these properties. Paid in full. You've been lying to me for years." Sarah stepped forward, her face pale. "You don't understand, Jack," she said, her tone shifting to one of feigned calm. "We've had our ups and downs. We've been struggling too. You have no idea what it's like." I shook my head, anger boiling up. "Struggling? Is that what you call it? You have a thriving business. You've been posting about your vacations, your new gadgets, all while asking me for money. You made me feel guilty for not doing enough, for not being there while you were living a lie." Ben tried to play it off. "It's not like that, bro. It's complicated. You're just overreacting." "Am I?" I shot back. "You didn't even hesitate to take the money. You never even thought about paying me back. And now you have the nerve to act like nothing's wrong." Ben laughed, a hollow, dismissive laugh. "Come on, man. Don't be that guy. We're family, remember? Family helps family." "Family?" I stared at them both. The words stung. "Is that what family does? Lies and steals?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of disbelief and fury. "You've been taking advantage of me for years, and you have the audacity to call it helping? This isn't family. This is manipulation." Their faces hardened, but I could see the cracks starting to show. The facade they'd built, the lies they'd told, it was all crumbling in front of them. But they weren't done yet. Ben tried one more time to shift the blame. "You're not thinking about the kids," he said, his voice laced with false concern. "What do you think they'll say when they find out what you're doing?" "Don't you dare use them," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "You've used them to guilt me into helping you, all while you were living a double life. This ends now." I grabbed the folder and slammed it onto the table. "I'm done," I said. "You have 1 month to pay me back in full or I'll take legal action." "Don't think I won't." Ben opened his mouth, but Sarah stepped in front of him, trying to calm me down. "Jack, you're misunderstanding everything," she said. "The vacation, the business, it's not like you think. We were just trying to." "No, Sarah," I interrupted. "I see everything clearly now. I've been blind long enough." I turned and walked out, the door slamming behind me. I didn't know what would happen next, but I wasn't backing down. They were going to pay for what they did, and no amount of family rhetoric was going to change that. I wasn't going to let this slide anymore. They thought they could get away with it. They thought I was just going to forget everything, keep helping, and ignore the lies they had been feeding me. But they were wrong. I was done being the fool. I hired a lawyer. I didn't want to. I didn't want to escalate things, especially with family. But I knew I had no choice. If I didn't stand up for myself now, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I wanted them to feel the weight of what they had done. The lawyer drafted a formal demand for repayment, with interest. It wasn't just about the $30,000 anymore, it was about the principal. They took advantage of my trust and they were going to pay for it. I gave them a strict deadline, 1 month to pay in full or face legal action. I thought about sending it for days before finally getting the courage to do so. As soon as I hit send, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. It was done. The truth was out. But I didn't expect what happened next. Ben didn't answer my calls. Instead, he sent me a message. "What's this all about, Jack? You're really gonna do this to your own brother? You're a bad brother." Bad brother? The nerve. I couldn't believe it. He wasn't even sorry. He was trying to shift the blame, trying to make me feel guilty. Like I was the one who'd done something wrong. But it was Sarah who took things to a new level. She posted a long, tear-filled message on social media accusing me of tearing the family apart. "I can't believe Jack would do this," she wrote. "We're just trying to get by. But now my own brother is suing us for money we didn't even ask for. How could he turn on us like this?" Her followers flooded the comments with sympathy, calling me selfish, greedy, and vindictive. I felt my blood boil as I read through the comments. They painted me as the villain, the one who was in the wrong. But I wasn't going to let their twisted version of the story stand. I wasn't going to let them destroy my reputation to cover up their lies. I had the truth on my side. I had the evidence, the bank records, the property documents, and the business registrations. And I wasn't afraid to use it. I decided to take the battle public. I posted everything. Screenshots of the transactions, the proof of their hidden assets, and the luxury vacations they claimed they couldn't afford. I posted the photos of Sarah lounging by the infinity pool, the messages they'd sent me about how desperate they were for help. The evidence was undeniable, and I was done hiding behind the curtain of family loyalty. The response was overwhelming. Some family members reached out privately, apologizing for doubting me. Others were furious with me, claiming I was ruining the family. But I didn't care anymore. I wasn't going to sit back and let them manipulate me, let them continue to use my generosity to cover their lies. The tension in the family grew unbearable. Ben and Sarah's social media posts became more defensive, their stories more dramatic. They continued to play the victim, calling me cold-hearted, claiming I was only doing this to hurt them. Sarah even posted a picture of her and the kids at a park, captioning it, "Just trying to make the best of things, even when family turns their back on you." But it wasn't working anymore. People were starting to see through the act. The more they posted, the more people saw how false their story really was. I had proof. I had the receipts. And every time they posted, I posted the truth right alongside it. I was determined to make sure that everyone saw who they really were. The lies, the manipulation, it all had to stop. And the only way I could do that was to stand firm. I wasn't going to back down, not when I knew the full extent of what they'd done. Not when they had taken so much from me, my trust, my money, my family. The battle was just beginning, but I was ready. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about making sure they faced the consequences of their actions. They couldn't hide behind their lies anymore. And as I watched their social media posts crumble one by one, I knew I was on the right path. The truth was winning. It had to. The truth had come out and there was no going back. After everything, the confrontation, the public battles, the social media war, I wasn't sure what I expected next. But what happened over the following weeks was beyond anything I could have imagined. My lawyer reached out to me with news that would change everything. The private investigator had uncovered something far more sinister than I had ever imagined. Ben and Sarah weren't just lying to me. They were part of a massive financial scheme that had been running for years, exploiting everyone around them. The more the investigator dug, the worse it became. Ben's failing business was a front for a complex money laundering operation. They'd been funneling money through fake invoices, hidden bank accounts, and fraudulent business dealings. The authorities soon discovered that they weren't just stealing from me, they had been scamming everyone. Family, friends, and even charitable organizations had fallen victim to their lies. I could hardly believe it. It was one thing to betray me, to take advantage of my generosity. But to involve others? To take from people who trusted them? That was unforgivable. When the authorities got involved, things escalated quickly. Ben and Sarah's entire operation came crashing down. Federal agents raided their businesses, seized their assets, and began the painstaking process of untangling the mess they had created. The full scope of their deception was horrifying. But it didn't end there. As the investigation unfolded, more and more people came forward, family members, friends, colleagues. They shared their stories of how Ben and Sarah had manipulated them for years, how they had played on their emotions and trust to get what they wanted. Some of those people were just as shocked as I was. But others had seen the signs and ignored them, too afraid to speak out. And then came the hardest part, my parents. When they finally saw the full extent of the lies, when they understood just how deeply they had been manipulated by their own children, their world shattered. My mother broke down in tears, unable to comprehend how she had been so blind to it all. My father, usually so composed, could only shake his head in disbelief. They had been just as much victims as I was. I don't think they'll ever fully recover from this. The pain of realizing how badly they had been deceived, how their own flesh and blood had taken advantage of them, it's something that will stay with them forever. It's something we all have to live with now. But even though the damage was done, there was a sense of relief in knowing that the truth had come out. The weight I had carried for so long, the guilt and the confusion, it was finally gone. The fraud, the manipulation, all of it was exposed for the world to see. The hardest part wasn't the legal battle or even the lies. It was seeing the people I loved, the people I thought I could trust, turned into something unrecognizable. That's the hardest thing to come to terms with. Now, the family is trying to heal, but it's not easy. The scars are deep. Trust doesn't come back overnight. And even though we're all trying to move on, things will never be the same. The betrayal has left a mark that can't be erased. For me, there's one thing I've learned through all of this: blood doesn't excuse betrayal. It doesn't matter who they were, how much history we shared, or how much I loved them. When the lies go that deep, when the manipulation is that calculated, there's no place for it in your life anymore. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this: I'll never let anyone take advantage of me again. I won't ignore the signs, I won't look the other way, and I won't let the people I love destroy me. The truth came out, and for the first time in a long time, I finally feel free.